Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new episode of the Kistler O'Brien podcast. I'm Tyler Trumbauer with Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection. That's right, we're back. Took a little bit of a hiatus, settled in, kind of figured some things out. We're back for more great content here on the KOB podcast. First season in the books, back for season 2. No tie this time around either. Neither are my guests. We're keeping it cool and blue today. You'll see that in a little bit. Speaking of my guests here today, joined by the tag team duo for clean agent suppression in the tri-state area here with Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection. We are joined by our sales representatives, Tom Fantasia and Steve Mosser. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me today. Thank you both for getting the memo about the blue hues for our shirts here today. And thirdly, welcome back. Both of you return guests on the KOB podcast. First time we've had return guests. Your fruit baskets will be in the mail, by the way, for that. So bringing you in here today, talking a little bit about clean agent suppression, which is what we've talked about previously with you both. But kind of a little new wrinkle that's impacting the industry a little bit. What is this that I keep hearing about, the AIM Act, A-I-M Act, right? The AIM Act. For us younger individuals in the industry, AIM, we may think about our screen name with our AOL Instant Messenger back in the day. That was our AIM, BRB was our status. But what does that mean to you guys in our industry, Tom?
By definition, the AIM Act is the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act. The AIM Act was started in 2020, took effect January of 2022, and basically, in simple terms, the government has begun to limit the production and consumption of HFCs. The traditional chemical compounds used for fire protection are victims of the AIM Act, and we have begun to see sharp increases in pricing and decreasing in availability.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously there's still some things to get figured out there quite yet, but this is already starting to make ripple effects in the industry. Steve, I know you've been out in the field talking with customers about this. What is that message that you're hitting home to them? Tom kind of boiled it down real simple for us, but for those that are actually end users of this, what does this mean for them, and what has kind of been the big focal point when you go out and discuss this?
Sure. So it's not, the AIM Act is not something that company business owners are aware of unless someone brings it to their attention. So my goal right now for both New Jersey and Pennsylvania customers or potential customers is to educate them on what the AIM Act is and the effect that it could have on their fire suppression system. In particular, the increase in price of the HFC. So if your system were to discharge, the cost of refilling those cylinders or that cylinder is going to be exponentially higher than what it may have been or what you thought it may have been. And my goal right now is to just educate those customers of that fact.
Certainly. So Tom, you're an industry veteran, right? You've been around for a long time in the fire and life safety industry. We talked about that on the previous episode that you appeared on the KOB podcast. As you've seen the industry kind of evolve and change over time, how big of an impact will this have on the industry moving forward? Obviously, Steve just talked about how pricing and the supply chain, is that really the big thing? What should those that kind of work around the industry or adjacent to life safety industry kind of know about this and what the ripple effects will be?
Okay, the ripple effects, for the environment, the ideal is that it will have a tremendous impact. By the year 2036, they want to limit the production of HFCs to down to 15% as an example of current production levels, which is, considerable. In the industry, customers, architects and engineers, they're asking the questions, can we have FM200 as an example of an HFC or Icaro 25? And the answer is yes. The products are still available. The production is being limited, it is being measured, and there's a vehicle now in effect to do just that. However, the chemical agent will be available in shorter supply on the manufacturing side, but recycled product will also be available. So I think it's important, if I'm going to do a general information just to kind of educate people, is the chemical agents, the HFCs, will be available if you need to recharge an existing system, if you want to make an expansion or make an area smaller, we can still do flow calculations, we can still get the product. I would also say that it might be cost effective for new projects to step back from that, very much like the days of Halon, where Halon began to be regulated and limited in production and availability. That's where all HFCs, whether it's Halon or FM200 or Caro 25, that's where we're heading. So we're encouraging our customer base and the engineering community to consider an alternative to an HFC. Those alternatives that we have today are a chemical product which is not an HFC, and that's called Novec 1230, manufactured by 3M. And basically every manufacturing company that offered the HFCs also has a product line with inerting gases. So the IG series inerting gas systems, which you can identify in NFPA, each manufacturer calls it by a different name, are available. So we have options. The biggest thing would be if you're an architect or an engineer, or you're a business owner and you've got a system or you're considering a system, you really need to give us a call, and we can point you in the right direction and guide you to the best system that you're looking to do. And then that's not to rule out an existing system that maybe we talk about a retrofit to take them out of the HFC type system and put them into an option, not an HFC or an inerting gaseous system.
Right, Stephen. And Tom, great response there to kind of lay out the options and the different solutions.
Yep.
As you talk to customers and you potentially provide that guidance, how has that flow been? How has that been going? We're like, hey, listen, you may want to, I know we were talking about this project 4 months ago, but now with the way things are going, I suggest we may want to present this option as well for you guys. Sure. Kind of how has that flow been going, and how much of a role do we have at Kistler O'Brien? Like Tom said, you can give us a call. Are we able to provide, that full capability of, here are your options, here are your suggestions. You don't need to bring in another third party, or they don't have to worry about figuring out the science themselves. We got experts right here in-house.
No, absolutely. I think the response has been great for both existing customers that we have and potential new customers that aren't aware of what the AIM Act is and the potential that it has to affect their systems down the line. So I've had a lot of great response from customers that I've reached out to regarding the AIM Act. A lot of them are looking for just a budgetary number so that they have an idea what they're looking at. I'm making sure to also explain to them that it's not a necessary thing to do right now. Your system is still 100% usable. It is going to be effective. It's just the cost down the line if your system were to discharge, or if you're looking to make modifications to your existing space or create a new space, that's when you would try and want to move out of the HFC and move into a different area. But the response has been great. I've gone through a number of projects with a number of people, and the questions that Tom brought up earlier are all questions that we're getting from those customers. And what I advise to those people are, we have experts on our staff here that have many years of experience, understand how systems work, understand different spaces, have plenty of years experience with it, and we will give you the best option possible.
Tom, so where do we go from here with this? Obviously, we've talked off air, and you kind of mentioned there's still some fill in the blanks that need to happen here. Sure. So for those that are kind of following this situation from afar, what are you looking for answers as someone that's directly impacted in your day-to-day business development efforts by this? What's the next step that you're foreseeing based off the webinars and industry experts that you talk to?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've already started the shift. We're already knee deep in this. An example of that would be projects that we've quoted 6 months ago. FM200 projects using HFC chemicals that are now actually being awarded. And we're approaching customers and business owners and saying, listen, appreciate the order, but we've got to tell you about the AIM Act, and we'd like to offer you an alternative. And that's been successful. I'm batting 1,000. As far as the industry and what I'm seeing and the way Steve and I are reacting, it's business as usual. You know, we're still a source of information. You know, we're still going to guide you to the best possible solution. Now, from a much higher level, you know, we're talking about, you know, the AMAC is the EPA, and they have to police it. So there are some questions regarding how do we police the production of FM200. Probably a lot easier than their attempt to police the availability of HFCs through the recycling community. Okay, we can measure virgin product coming out of a manufacturing facility and manifest and things of that nature. But some of the recyclers are getting systems that are already existing and reselling that. So there's a lot of questions yet, and I've been part of groups of people that have been discussing that, and they're working out the details of that. So that's probably something Steve and I don't deal with every day, but from the big picture, it's what's going on behind the scenes to really give the AMAC some teeth and measurables so that it can be successful.
Right. So just to kind of recap. So obviously the shift is happening. The move is kind of going away, like you said. There's still availability in the marketplace for that, but you are talking to individuals that have maybe more of a long-term plan with their buildings. That if you want to change it, you want to add on to it, you may want to go to some of these other options that we have. Absolutely. Is there a date in mind or part of the AIM Act where they're going to drop that off and that's not an option anymore in the marketplace and you're going to have to go to these other options? And if so, has that been established yet?
It has not. Okay? And for lack of a better way to put this, that has been the question of the ages.
Okay.
So Steve and I, almost daily, people ask us, oh, we have a halon system. Can I have it? And the answer is yes. Now, halon is the banned as far as manufacturing. However, you can still have a system if your system is properly maintained. You can have it, we can maintain it, we just can't adjust it. We can't make your system bigger. We can't make it smaller. We can't design new systems. There's no flow program that NFPA still recognizes, but you can still have it. So now we're getting questioned on the availability of HFCs, whether it's halon, FM200, and ECAR 025. When will it go away? We don't know if it ever will go away.
Right.
So, you know, the compass is pointing to the green of things, you know, for layman's terms. There's no date established. It's rumor in the industry as to, you know, when will halon be banned. Well, I don't know that it ever will.
Yeah.
So there is no official date of that. And, you know, now we're next gen, which is the other HFCs. Still available, still can get them. We could still flow the newer HFC products. And there's no established date as far as, you know, discontinuing the product or banning it, being able to have it in a system in the States.
Gotcha. Okay. No, guys, I think that's super great. So, I mean, essentially to our viewers out there and our listeners, they need to stay tuned to, you know, our content at Kistler O'Brien. You know, we'll have subsequent blogs, things like that. Talk to you guys, our experts, about, you know, what is to come in this, and also just pay attention to the industry overall. Because like you said, the wheels are in motion, they're kind of moving, but we don't quite know the destination quite yet. We know the goal, but how do we get there? Exactly. And like you said, that's not a decision that us three in our blue shirts get to make.
Correct.
So appreciate that and the information on that. I mentioned earlier, guys, that both of you were previously on the podcast. Steve, you most recently,
Yes.
before we took our break, maybe that was the reason why, I'm kidding. But the check-in for you since then, we talked then, fairly new, was all this fire and life safety game, if
correct.
you will.
Yes.
What have you learned? Anything new insight you can provide to us since you've been now months out in the field, hundreds of customer calls and visits and walking through their facilities? Any new wisdom that you have for us about you know, fire and life safety overall, your take on it, or maybe even specifically clean agent suppression?
I don't think I have any new information on it. I think I'm learning every day. Certainly, I get to spend a lot of time with Tom, who does the same thing I do in the Pennsylvania market. So I am on the road with him quite a bit, which has been extremely helpful for me. He's introduced me to lots of individuals that can help me and Kistler move our business forward. But I would say it's a challenge. It's certainly a challenge to break into a market that we have not really had much of a presence in. I'm doing everything that I can to put our name on the map in the New Jersey market, make sure that they are aware of our longstanding influence in fire safety and fire suppression specifically. Some of those customers have had prior experience with Tom, so that's kind of a foot in the door. But as far as new knowledge, the AIM Act is the biggest thing, obviously, which we just covered. That is also an opportunity to get my foot in the door, to speak to them intelligently, let them know that we're here to help them. And that's the most important thing that people need to know, is that we're not being looked at as competition for other people. We want to make sure that we're protecting the spaces to the best of our ability.
Certainly. Tom, Steve mentioned that you guys have been working in tandem a little bit, introducing him to a lot of the individuals that you've met and engaged with over the years. As Kistler O'Brien kind of works more in the New Jersey market in general, but in particular with fire suppression, clean agent suppression, what do you make of that evolution and that growth kind of as a company and kind of as us going into this new market? And what would you say to those business owners that, they look at Kistler O'Brien and they're like, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, but that behind that name, we got the manpower, the capabilities to support the tri-state area.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of new things going on in the industry. There's been some advancements in lithium-ion battery detection systems. Not a whole lot of advancement in how to protect against a lithium-ion battery fire. So Steve and I are kind of midstream with that. That being the hottest topic in the fire protection world today. So we have Kistler O'Brien has been in business for a number of decades, and we have great relationships with major manufacturers of the equipment. We have access to the cutting edge information on the latest and greatest. And I'd love the opportunity to maybe discuss that particular subject, lithium-ion battery protection, detection systems, etc., on a future podcast.
He just invite himself on. I think that's what he just
Absolutely.
did. I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that. Well, I appreciate you both for joining us again. Tom, looking for a bigger fruit basket for a third invitation
Thank
to
you.
come
I
on the
appreciate
KLE
it.
podcast. Gentlemen, appreciate it. And thank you all our viewers and listeners for tuning in for this month's episode of the KOB podcast. Stay tuned. We'll have some more coming up, including maybe a lithium-ion battery discussion with Tom Fantasia. If you missed any of our previous episodes, be sure to check us out on YouTube. Search Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection, or you can find our audio-only versions anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, etc. That'll do it for us for this time. Until next time, I'm Tyler Trumbauer with Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection.